Uh, we definitely need to watch this. It's uh, I don't know why, but sometimes I just get the craziest. I'm surfing the web and I get the craziest shit. It's nuts, dude. This is the Dick Cavett Show. Why was I searching the Dick Cavett Show? I don't know. Corey Dahl versus Norman Mailer. It's so fucking weird and random. I'm proud of myself, actually. This is, this is classic shit, dude. It's classic, trust me. There we go. I can bring it in a little more. So, alright, hold on. We need to watch this. This is classic shit. I've already said what it was. Coffee Doll versus Norman Mailer. They just hate each other. It's start. It's crazy.
Oh, wait a minute. Are you? First round. We all seem to be standing. Yeah. Couldn't help noticing that you failed to shake hands with one of my guests.
I guess I forgot.
Yeah. Well, no, wait a minute. Are you fellas not,
What? No. Nothing.
Well, let's get... Are you friends? Or are you polite enemies? Let me put it another way. Are you impolite friends?
Well, I'll tell you what we are, because it's interesting, really. I don't know any other case in my life like it. We were friends last time we saw each other, which was about 2 or 3 years ago. And since then, we've been doing nothing but write atrocious things about each other.
I don't like to book people on because they don't like each other, and I don't even book the people necessarily. Occasional opinion about what's going on. But I did realize that you two have written a number of things about each other.
Yes, yours have been long and mine have been short.
But you said
Seem long.
I also have the Dick Cavett Show with John Lennon and the Yoko Ono. I also have, I think I have a couple more. I have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 tabs open. I've been searching YouTube like a motherfucker, dude. There was the original search page. And I went here to the Coffee Doll one. And I got...
We are back. My next guest.
Oh. Johnny Carson and the Muppets. That's pretty good. Was John and the Ono. Markiplier. Gary Peterson. Okay, let's continue the Corvidor Norman Mailer thing.
Time magazine asked you for a quote. I think this is in the beginning of The Prisoner of Sex, and you said that the subject needed some thought or something like that, and if you want short, quotable quotes, you would go to somebody like Gore Vidal. But you made it sound a little more
No,
snide
it was worse than that. I said that that the need of the magazine reader for a remark which he could repeat at dinner was best served by writers with names like Gore Vidal.
That's right. I badly misquoted you.
All those writers called Gore Vidal.
I know there are thousands of them, yeah. Well,
I'd really like to get into a discussion with Gore. He's been saying absolutely unspeakable things about me. He's been acting even worse than he usually does as a polemicist. You know, he's really, he's shameless in intellectual argument. He's absolutely without character, a moral foundation, or even intellectual substance.
Back
I mean,
then,
the
that was a
perfect
big
proof
deal.
of what he does is that leave it to Gore to write a play about Richard Nixon. You know, I'm getting to the point where I'm going to end up liking Nixon. I mean, it's getting to the point, if you want to make $1 million, you know, carve up Richard Nixon's back with a knife. You know, poor president, he can't defend himself.
You
You
said
vote
he's...
for him?
Well, if I keep reading and hearing, you know, and you and Roth keep making these killings, which just excites my economic envy, of course I'll vote for him. I'll finally say that they're doing too much. He's not a bad man. He created peace with China, you know. Watch out.
Well, it's a very quiet moment here that we
There
have,
is a quiet
Dick,
moment.
and,
I wanted to give you time to defend yourself
just
slightly there.
hated
If you felt
each
you
other.
needed to.
They
Do you feel you've been
hated
attacked?
each other.
No, I'm very fond.
From what I know, it's with the fiery passions of 5,000 suns. They just hated each other. It was. I heard about this. It's just nuts. They nearly came to blows. Or maybe they did. I can't remember.
Fond of Norman. There's nothing he can do to attack
Something to
Gore,
look
you can
forward
afford to
though.
be fond of me because you said the scurrilous things about me.
her. What did I say about you that was so scurrilous? I attacked your piece.
No, don't bring up everything.
No, we'll just go. Bring a little bit. I attacked.
I want to tell you something,
I attacked your
Janet Flannery,
piece.
if I may. Gore may bring up everything because the contents of his stomach are no more interesting than the contents of the stomach of an intellectual cow.
And Norman Mailer, the veal. being a-
While we're slinging meat at each other, there'll be a message, and we'll be right back. Somebody bring this all into focus.
I'll try to bring it into focus. That Norman did a book on women's liberation. And his attitudes towards sex, some very interesting, some quite outrageous. His very anti-women's liberation piece, and he was very mean to a couple of the girls, particularly Kate Millett. And I answered his piece, and a number of others. You know, Norman is taking everything too personally. This is something I care about. And he happened to be one of my examples of what was wrong with what the women's lib people would call sexism. He has come out firmly against masturbation. He has come out against contraception, against abortion. He has a line.
I didn't know he was against masturbation, dude. That's not right. I love masturbation. Okay. Yes, I'm looking straight at the camera now. I love masturbation. Fuck you. If you don't, you can fuck off.
Line that good sex makes good babies. Well, maybe it does, but
That wasn't
I
the line.
worry. You give us the exact word. And my
Good.
point,
Give good babies.
yeah, good blip gives good baby, which may or may not be true, but
May or may not, but interesting.
no, I didn't think it was very interesting. No,
No, I think it's fascinating as a premise. I mean, did Muhammad Ali come out of a
Oh,
good
for heaven's sake,
or a
putting
bad
everything
one?
on muscles. That doesn't. How about geniuses? They're born in the most rachitic people, very often, in disgraceful situations.
We're not talking about geniuses. We're talking about good babies.
Maybe they were delightfully good babies. How
Some
can
and
you
some were
tell?
probably atrocious babies. Genius is transcendence. You know that. You can't bring in genius in any discussion about what
Well, I
makes good
expect
babies.
an infant
Really,
genius is not so transcendent all the time.
always.
Still has to be changed and things of that sort.
No, don't you think genius is transcendence? Really. What else is it?
transcendence of what?
Of the given. Otherwise, we're not talking about genius. We're talking about talent, about style, about manner.
Oh,
about,
my gracious, I don't think
about
I've ever-
superb.
Which of us has ever
economy.
met a genius?
Which is what?
Which of us has ever met a genius?
I met Chaplin. He was a genius.
I think that's fair.
And I knew
I
it when
met
I
him
met
too.
him. There was no question. You didn't argue with it.
But you will admit that you were accused of being a chauvinist of the worst kind.
Well, I
by
know, but that's what's
Kate Millett
wrong.
and-
That's
and,
what's wrong with women's liberation, which is it's a new and it's a young
Oh, for
movement.
goodness sake, now let's not go back onto that.
I'd love to talk about it for 2 minutes
Oh
every day.
dear, oh dear, oh dear. We've heard it all.
Angel, it's my time now. And the law of the dinner table is that we now talk about what I want to talk about.
Who passed this law?
Didn't you? Don't we agree?
Who passed this law, did you say?
This law, this dinner table law, I never heard of it. Never
Well,
heard of it.
it's just that I listen to you.
It's going to be coffee time any minute.
I knew that when I came to your house for dinner, I wouldn't get anything to eat. But pass the coffee.
Yeah, that's it.
But no, you have been called in great detail a male chauvinist of the worst kind, and various stories of yours, as you know, were cited. And this is all water under the bridge, I suppose. But
it's just nonsense. It's just ridiculous. If I have anything at all, I have a complicated mind. In fact, I have a mind so complicated that Gore has said with some justice that my style is getting unreadable. It's one thing in his critique that I agree with. My style is getting difficult. It's hard when you have a lot in your head to write something. It's true. Gore has never encountered this problem.
What did you say? I wasn't listening, Norman. What was it? What were you talking?
Small mind, no matter.
I don't care.
No, don't be autobiographical all the time.
That was like what he was saying, you're not important enough kind of look, thing, It's an insult.
Well.
what did you ask him if he had a copy of this notorious piece of writing?
This notorious piece of writing, yes, he brought the one page of it, which was my piece on women's liberation.
It was more of the same after that.
And a piece on women's liberation, and particularly on the people who had started to attack the women, and some of the attacks, particularly Maynard, Irving Howe, I thought uncalled for in their tone, and I suppose I was kind of rough in mine. But these things aren't personal.
I know
This to me is a position that I'm taking, that I have taken. I'm very serious about politics. I'm very serious about this kind of thing.
No, Gore, you're not, and that's what I objected to in the piece.
Well, then that's up to you to prove.
Well, it's our little argument, if you don't mind. You're not serious about politics. You've been in politics all your life. You've dabbled in it superbly well. I mean, you made a marvelous race for Congress some years ago in New York. You worked very hard. I admired the way you worked at that time. You're one of the wonderful things about you is that with all your sort of profound, essential right-wing snobbery, you become America's second or third or fourth most lovely liberal, which is one of the prestidigitation games of the intellectual world of the last 20 years.
Second, third, fourth?
Well, who's ahead of you? Nader and a couple other people. At any rate,
This became classic. It's the TV history. It's up there with the Marsh Pit episode of Donahue and the children of evangelical preachers on Oprah and Shut Out Capone's Vault. Nobody will remember that. I saw that happen on TV. That's fuck, man. I can't remember his name. It's on the tip of my tongue, but it's just that fucking. It's on Fox now. Let's continue.
The thing is that you have no standards. You have nothing you really are serious about, and you pay and play terrible games. You go in for intellectual adulteration, and that's what I won't put up with. You can do anything you want to any piece I ever write. You can rip it apart. You can tear it up, and by God, I may be bloody on the floor. But if you taught me something about writing, I'll look up and I'll love you for having taught me something about writing. But when you teach me something about the tricks of adulteration that exist in the world, when you talk about the sort of rot that goes on in ecology, you see about the rivers will never be clean again, and you pollute the intellectual rivers. Good God!
Well, I must
that's
say,
vomitous.
I think it worries you that I made some comments about your recent writing not being very good.
Well, I think it's
wasn't
excellent, but it's either here or there.
I wasn't setting myself up as the famous writer's school, to give you any hints. It's just that I thought
Why don't you?
Alright, I gotta show you something really quick. John Lennon was the first person to bring up identity. I have proof. Gonna get to it. Where is it? Kill Samuel. This is...
And showed me this strange-looking woman. Find it, and one day he's.
Is that when you named your company Apple?
No.
Of Bob.
Gradually becomes 4 and 5 flies all crawling over her body, and the message
No, it
is
is.
like.
What? So those are in the audience. We have two friends which are
Who are in fact in bags.
See, we
must
thought of a
take
thing that
we
we must
can't-
take a break now. Yes.
That's right. We will take a break and we will get to them after that. Stay with us. Would everyone wearing a bag please step up here so we could see what, the two people in the second row? I've never had guests.
Let it down, mate. You can see him.
Sure, I'm sure people were wearing stuff like that in the Middle East, but the identity thing came up. This is the first time it was a thing. John Lennon did it a long time ago, but then he started doing it just to fuck with the reporters. And they had a lot of fun, but this is serious. It's,
Legs there. What's going on?
Can I help you adjust your... There we are.
Now, see, if they were going for
Yes.
a job, you see, and you say, "Oh, what are your qualifications?
How do you do?
And what colour are you? And are you Christian or are you Hebrew?" And yeah, you got the job.
Let us know when you're through voting. I have no idea what sex either of you is, and I assume you do.
Well, you see, you could go in the bag
I
and make love to one of them and find out.
I would, but this is a very short segment.
Oh, I see. Okay. Do you want to go off again then?
If
Why
we
don't you dance
had
off?
more time.
Yes, I know.
Oh, they're leaving.
You've seen one, you've seen
Wait,
them all.
wait, one thing. One thing. You will speak to me. It's funny because I don't know where to
come
look.
back
I don't know if your nose or your eyes
No,
are
come
here.
back here.
Are you a lady?
Yes, I am.
Would you hold where you are for just a moment? Just stay where you are. I'm offering you a glass of water.
I don't drink water.
You don't drink water?
We did an
Have I
interview
made a
in-
social faux pas?
No, I think it's all right because you don't
Yeah.
know whether she's powering or phoning in there, do you? So it's all right. You see, we did a talk show in England, and every time the man wanted to talk about Beatles, the interviewer, because I'm fed up talking about them, I asked him to go in a bag, and he did it. And the interviewer, the Dick Cavett in England, he was in the bag all the time. So every time the camera panned to him, the audience broke up, so he could never get the questions out. It's a very good show. Hello.
Thank you for being here.
Charming.
Can you find your way down now? Okay.
You look very nice.
Yes, you're looking a little pale, but very nice.
Nah, I just had to show you that. Let's get back to the Norman Mailer versus Gore Vidal, and I've got to download this video.
You try
thought
the
that your
talk
subject-
just once, Gore,
It's
without
just-
yucks.
It's too classic, man. I have to download it.
Why don't you just talk to me instead of talking to the audience, huh?
Well, by a curious thing, we have not found ourselves in a friendly neighborhood bar, but both by election are sitting here with an audience, so therefore it would be dishonest of us to pretend otherwise.
All right, Gore, look. We are here with an audience by choice. But let us at least. Hey, Miss Flanner, are you working as the referee or as Mr. Vidal's manager? I'm pretty willing to accept you in either role.
It is hard when you both talk at the
Here's
same
manager.
time. Yes.
You know, but my mind is fragile. I find it very hard to think, and if you're muttering in the background, it's difficult.
Wow!
He lost for mayor of New York. I've never learned how.
You both lost, didn't you? I mean,
Learned.
you're two unsuccessful political
No,
candidates.
Gore was a very good politician, actually. He fought an uphill fight and he almost won. He did very well and he worked very hard at it. I ran an absolutely foolish, scandalously bad campaign, a stupid campaign. I was a total amateur and I'm ashamed of that campaign. It was awful and I did the most to defeat myself. So it's not a matter of that.
not that.
I'd like fair measure on things that were done and Gore worked. I know how tough politics is now, and Gore was a very good politician when he ran. Very good, a serious, sensible, hard-working, and he played the game, which is a tough game.
What's happened to him since then, according to your lights?
He's gone up and he's going down. He's going up and he's going down, like many another. You know.
Well, I know what annoys him about you because he's written it, and it's the idea of your having sort of assumed the Hemingway lifestyle when Hemingway died, and he called it the.
Well, I haven't
you wrote
assumed
that
the Hemingway,
once. The boozing, brawling,
I thought that-
goyisher fool, worried about his liver.
That
whether it'll hold out,
worried me.
something like
That was an earlier
that was
period.
old.
That was an
Oh.
earlier period. That was the period of advertisements for myself when
Ah.
Norman was sounding like that. No, he's changed again. The good thing about him is his constant metamorphosis. He does re-bear himself.
See, the thing is, I might have to do this other times. Old fucking TV shows like Dick Cavett Show and Son of Jesse and Oprah. The old Oprah ones are Donahue. The old Oprah ones are pretty good. The one with the evangelical children is good. Okay. Fuck. See, I gotta look that up now. So now I have to fucking do. Here we go. Oh, it's a clip of one of the kids doing it. Hold on.
Gurgitating Bible.
I gotta see it from the beginning. But, let's watch a little more of Norman Mailer versus Coffee Doll before we get to the Oprah one.
Like the Phoenix, and what the next incarnation will be, I don't know.
Well, you seem to have me figured out as the next reincarnation for me is going to be Charles Manson.
Well, you let yourself...
Why don't you read what you wrote?
You
fellow?
let yourself in for it, and I will tell you, I'll give a little background here, that Mailer has
We all
written-
know that I stabbed my wife many years ago. We do know that, Gore. You were playing on that. Now, come
Oh,
on.
I'm not to forget about it. Listen,
Well, no, you don't want to forget about it. You're a liar and a hypocrite. You were playing on it.
But that wasn't a
Playing
lie
on
or a
it
hypocrisy. I wasn't going to
scandalously.
talk about it.
The fact of the matter is that people who read the New York Review of Books know perfectly well. They know all about it. And it's your subtle little way of doing it. You know, the New Yorker
Oh, I'm beginning to see what bothers you now. Okay, I'm getting the point.
Are you ready to apologize?
I would apologize if it hurts your feelings. Of course I would.
No, it hurts my sense of intellectual pollution.
Well, I must say,
I mean,
as an expert, you should know about that.
I would like to.
Oh!
Yes, well, I've had to smell your works from time to time, and that has helped me to become an expert on intellectual pollution.
Wow. Just went at it. This is. Wow. This is gold. Wow, that's crazy, dude. I didn't know we got this heated. It doesn't seem heated, but it is. It's hard to explain.
Yes.
Yeah, well, let's, I was going to say, I was not going to...
Men insult each other, not only in public, but you act as if you were in private. That's the odd way.
It's the art
I
of
see.
television, isn't
It's
it?
very odd that you act as if you were the only people here.
Aren't we?
They are here. He's here. I'm here, and I'm becoming very, very bored.
My.
People.
You still haven't told me whether you're Gore's manager or the referee.
If you make history here by punching a lady,
I won't have it.
Now look, you see the sort of thing that goes on. Now you say if I make history by punching a lady, you know perfectly well. You know perfectly well that I'm the gentlest of the four people here.
I just hope it lasts through the next whatever we have left.
I guarantee you, I wouldn't hit any of the people here because they are smaller.
In what ways?
Intellectually.
Well,
Intellectually smart.
Well, let me turn my chair and join these three. Perhaps you'd like 2 more chairs to contain your giant intellect.
Or the jab right back at Norman. Norman lost his. Then Dick Cavett was hitting.
Why don't you look at your question sheet and ask a question? Hey, can I talk to the audience?
Why don't you fold it 5 ways and put it where the moon don't shine?
Dick, Kevin, on your word of honor, did you just make that up, or have you had it canned for years and were you waiting for the best moment to use it?
I have to tell you a quote from Tolstoy.
You just made it up, didn't you? You just made it up on the spur of the moment. You're a poet.
Yeah, right.
You're really a poet.
Are you in
made it up
awe
on
of the creative ability?
I'm always in awe of the creative ability whenever it appears in its fair presence, which is as itself. Now, look, I want to get into something, if I may. I'd like to talk to this audience, because this
Your
audience
turn.
has been curiously hostile to me from the word go. Now, I want to ask all of you something. Are you
No, not really.
really all truly idiots, or is it me?
Oh, that was the easy answer. Come on.
So I was going to ask the audience what I was doing that was making them cheer every time the other side connected with a pass from one to the other of my 3 opponents.
But not I.
So attitude, dude.
All right, that's fair. Someone said I'm rude and someone said I'm being a snot.
Wait,
The
we have
joint is
enough.
loaded with libbies. My God, it wasn't enough to trump.
Liberal. That's how he's attacking liberals. It's this. If you know the history between these two, yeah, it was good. Back in the day, I even knew. It's crazy drama.
Bundled Janet Flanner along, the most formidable presence in the history of television, but you had to load the balcony with your libbies, your little libbies.
Oh, now, wait a minute. There was only one lady's voice that rang out. Do you consider that loaded?
It was the voice of legions.
Well,
I'm
so negatively and insulting to your guests or the other people up
They're not my guests. They're not my guests any more than they're your guests.
It seems it's your show now.
Why do you have to answer them with always insults and nasty statements, and they're answering you maturely and with dignity?
Well, that's because they are mature and full of dignity, and they'd cut my throat in any alley. And I answer rudely because I'm crude and a lout and a clod. That's why. Now, have we progressed at all?
He's honest, but
Oh, can I
still a fucking dick.
reach you? Can I talk to any of you, or is it hopeless? I mean, do you care to listen? I do have a thing or two to say, believe it or not.
Sir, I can accept your honest responsibility. It's very hard for me to get to.
Well, I'm bored with being misrepresented, you see. I've been misrepresented by my own paranoid lights for 25 years in this country, something like that. And to find an old literateur like Gore Vidal who knows his way around, you know, in prize-fighting terms, Gore is like that fellow who is always ranked. I mean, he's been ranked at anywhere from number 9 to number 3, for 2 once in a while, for 20 years. He's sort of like Archie Moore, but not nearly as good. And he's been around for all this years. He knows the ropes. And then suddenly, after all these years, he suddenly developed a particularly dirty literary game. Well, it inflames me. You know, I've been so bold as to pretend to be the presumptive literary champ, you know, whether I deserve to be or not. The reason people always talk about me in relation to Hemingway is just that Hemingway at a certain point said to himself, with his huge paranoia, they're going to kill me for this, but I am going to be the champ. It's all I care about. And it shifted the course of American letters. Because up to that point, people who wrote books were men of letters. They were gentlemen. They wrote books. And Hemingway, it said in effect, no, people who write books take as much punishment as prize fighters, and one of them has to be a champion. Now, we've had a time that has not been interesting in terms of champions. In Hemingway's time, there were great writers. There was Faulkner, and there was Hemingway, and there were many other writers like Steinbeck and Farrell and Dos Passos and Thomas Wolfe. Many, many really wonderful writers. Our time has been much more complicated, and there haven't been that many really extraordinary writers around, and I have presumed, with all my extraordinary arrogance and loutishness and crudes, to step forth and say, I'm going to be the champ until one of you knocks me off. Well, fine, but, you know, they don't knock me off because they're too damn simply yellow, and they kick me in, and I don't like it. All this is about is I wrote a book called The Prisoner of Sex, which started off to be a book about women's liberation and what I thought of it for Harper's magazine. And in the course of it, I found I couldn't begin to think about what I thought about women's liberation until I began to decide what I thought about sex. Well, you know, I'm 48 years old, and I've lived a bit of a life, and I found that what I thought about sex was extraordinarily complex to me, and not simple at all. And I had many thoughts about it, back and forth, and a huge number of feelings about women's liberation, because I admired aspects of it and detested other aspects of it and wrestled with it, and my mind changed a bit as I thought about it. And this book was an attempt to write about these things and think about these things and talk about them. And after the book was written, it was as if I had not written the book. The word that came out is, I was a male chauvinist pig. Well, that's dull. It's just dull. It's beneath us as Americans to think in thick, frozen terms of intellectual pollution.
Excuse me.
Then Gore, Gore comes along on his toes. He's a marvelous little boxer, as you saw. And Gore comes along and starts polluting these waters further. But he knows what he's doing. That's the trouble. He's a bad man.
To answer Norman's charge about what a bad person I am, the attack on him really, if you want to know Norman, simply what I detest in you, and I like many things in you, as you know. I'm a constant friend despite this. But your violence, your love of murder, your celebration of rage, of hate, American dream, what was the dream? A man murders his wife and then his woman afterwards to celebrate an American man's dream. This violence, this knocking people down, this carrying on, is a terrible thing. Now, it may make you a great artist. It may make you a great artist.
At the end. I'll listen, but I demand 1 minute at the end to return.
It may make you an interesting artist. I don't say that. But to the extent that one is interested in the way the society is going, there is quite enough of this stress, quite enough of this violence without what I think are your celebrations of it, your attitude towards women in this thing, which I thought really horrible. And you said I compared you to Charles Manson. I said Henry Miller in his way, Norman in his, and Manson in his far-out mad way are each reflecting a hatred of women and a hatred of flesh. And frankly, if I may say so.
There has been from Henry Miller to Norman Mailer to Charles Manson a logical progression, period. The Mailer-Manson man, or M3 for short, has been conditioned to think of women as at best breeders of sons, at worst objects to be poked, humiliated, killed. And from there on in the piece, you speak of Miller, the great writer, Henry Miller, the greatest writer alive in America. If we're going to talk like muckers, I'll talk too like a mucker. Henry Miller, the greatest writer alive in America, and myself, and Charles Manson, a hugely complex Raskolnikovian figure, are spoken of, lumped together as M3. Now, do you call that good intellect working? To lump together 3 people is curious? As Henry Miller, Norman Mailer, and Charles Manson?
Well, you must read the piece. You can't go...
I read it.
You have to read it, but the audience is not. You are selecting this one passage as representative of the whole. I make my case very carefully, but I will say, giving you a few minutes more on the program, you will prove my point. It is, I come back to what I said, I detest this violence in you. You have actually written that murder is never non-sexual.
Well, is it ever non-sexual?
Well, I'm even told...
Don't you know, Gore?
Not having murdered anybody lately, no, I don't know. I'm going to give you a line that Degas said to Whistler, 2 celebrated painters, and Whistler was a great performer like Norman. And Degas said, you know, Whistler, you act as if you had no talent.
Yes, you are, and I read
You
it.
present yourself as though you really had no talent at all, and of course you are one of our best
And
writers.
I read it in the same place you read it, which is Edmund Wilson's answer to Vladimir Nabokov
So what?
in last week's Times.
What's that got to do with it?
I thought it was marvelous.
Good. I'm happy that we both agree that the sentiment is
The
correct.
difference is that I'd savor the remark and you throw it into the battle. He speaks of a character in a book of mine murdering his wife, a woman, as a celebration of American manhood. Now, I throw myself upon your court, hanging judge. I say that's intellectual muckerism of the worst sort, because the character I had there.
And I think those cutouts are censorships. When they try to censor a word. Because they didn't have the beat back then. So they had to cut out audio.
There was a particularly complex character, and in fact, he did not simply be a woman, he her the other way as well. And there was a particularly complicated.
For goodness sake.
Well, it's possible to. I know you've lived in France for many years, but believe me, Janet, it's possible to a woman another way as well.
So I've heard.
Well, this has been an interesting evening around the old table, and Miss Flannery, I'm glad to see you got that box of cookies that you wanted. And you other two fellas,
The
could you...
only solace.
Yeah. Let us know who you think won. That would be interesting, and we'll see you next time we're on the air.
Wow. Hi, I'm gonna close some of these next. Is Oprah and Child Pleasure. I want to get the entire one though. This one's a classic also. Okay, there we go. Okay, let's watch it.
And I see here, it seems like these kids are just regurgitating Bible verses. I want to know if you really understand what it is that you are preaching.
I would like to make up a reading comprehension test for these kids to see if they really.
You're not on mic, so
This student's an
I know,
A
could you
student
give
in
me-
the school.
Could you maybe give me a Bible verse?
Oh, that
and
doesn't mean
interpret it or something?
yeah, could you preach for us and let us and then tell us what it is you mean?
Both ways.
Could you, Duffy? Could you? In your own words.
But you want me
Yeah.
preaching it?
Yeah, whatever you want to do.
Okay.
Well, there's a verse.
Headphone warning. Volume warning.
Get up.
Okay, wait. Volume warning. I'm even gonna take my headphones off because this kid is loud. Just be warned.
Yeah, go ahead. Stand up right where you are if you want to. Go ahead.
Duffy, do you want to preach?
If you want to. If you don't want
the
to,
audience shouldn't be able to intimidate you into this. If you want to do it, it's up to you.
Whosoever therefore shall be ashamed of me and of my words in this adulterous and sinful generation, of him also shall the Son of Man be ashamed.
Okay. Now, wait a minute. Wait just a minute. Wait just a minute, please. People want to know what that means that you just said. In your own word, tell us what does that mean.
They're being asked to walk it through exactly what they mean by it. What the kid means. Well, they're saying what does it mean, but they're asking from the kid's perspective. This is a classic answer.
It means just what it says.
Don't yell it to us. Tell us what that means.
Well,
I've never read the Bible, let's pretend, and I don't understand that type of language. Tell me how that applies in my own life.
Well, why I'm screaming is the Bible definition of preaching is Isaiah 58:1. It says, "Cry aloud, Spare not, lift up your voice like a trumpet.
Stay away from the Bible, Duffy.
Tell us in your own words. How do you stay away from the Bible if you're going to preach, though?
The Bible says you're to speak as the oracles of God. If you don't want to talk the way this Bible talks, you should keep your mouth shut.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
The oracle of God. Okay.
We still, but you understand what people are saying. They want you to interpret what you just said, Duffy.
The Bible says, does not interpretation belong to God? Genesis chapter 40. Read it.
It's classic.
I understand that, David. What we're saying is, though, Duffy, do you understand what you just said? Could you put in your own words what you just said?
Yeah, I know what it means, but I just can't.
Please let him speak. Yes.
Means well, I know what it means, but it's just hard to understand. But you gotta realize that the prophets were out there saying, "Thus saith the Lord," and they didn't even know who it was. They didn't understand what they were saying.
Hi, YouTubers.
Wow. Okay. Oh, this is Johnny Carson and the Muppets. Actually, another good one. I should watch it. Yeah, why not? Okay.
Next is a most imaginative and talented gentleman who created the famous puppets who will be featured in a TV special at 8 o'clock tomorrow night called The Muppet Show. Would you welcome, please, Jim Henson.
Hello, Jim.
Excuse my left hand.
Nice to meet you.
Hello.
He's got to go on the best dress list, you know that?
Oh, yeah, you like my threads
Oh,
there.
I love my dress.
Oh, yeah, that's the...
That's Dr. Teeth, huh? How are you,
Yeah,
Doctor?
I'm good. Oh, yeah.
Good to see you.
Nice to be here.
You feel
Made
so...
the big time, didn't I? Yeah. Boy.
In the big room.
Oh, yeah.
How would you describe your music? What is that? Is that rock or jazz?
Oh,
or...
that's like catastrophe music. It's a towering inferno with bongo drums. You know?
Yeah. Do you get a lot of chicks now? That most rock stars have the groupies now that you're a big star. Does that?
Being a puppet, it's sort of different. The head of my fan club is Nan Gora Sweater. Comes out of Dubuque, Iowa. She's really fuzzy, though, man. Oh, yeah. Dig that fuzz.
Yeah. Where did you get your name, Dr. Teeth?
My gold tooth there.
Oh, I see, right in the front.
See in there, yeah. Got 3 gold records melted down in there. Melted them down and stuck them in my mouth.
Yeah. Who's going to be on the special tomorrow night with Dr. Teeth?
Well, let's see. Shall I answer that?
Sure.
Sure, go ahead. Yeah, it doesn't matter to me, man.
Now, we've got sort of an unusual lineup of characters. We've got the homicidal maniac and the San Francisco earthquake. We've got Mount Rushmore and the 7 deadly sins.
Mount Rushmore and the 7 deadly sins. Did you?
Fantastic.
Yeah, great.
And my group, which is the Electric Mayhem.
Did you start this as a kid? Fooling around with puppets?
Well, I started sort of just out of high school.
Right.
And then I had
It's a whole new departure from just the hand puppets. You've given them a whole new dimension, and some of the things you've done where you do the visual pieces of film with the characters really.
Yeah, well, I've worked in
incredible.
television a long time, and I enjoy television.
It has a lot of effects that you can do that you can't do live, right? You can combine the film and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
Where's our old friend Kermit? Is Kermit around? Maybe we can call on Kermit. Do we want to do a break first? Then we'll come back and we'll talk with Kermit a while.
Sure.
Okay? All right, we'll take a break here. If you just joined us, we're talking with Diane Carroll, Jim Henson and some of his friends, and Dan Rowan will join us, and Larry Beezer, and Norman Fell a little bit later on. And here's my old friend Kermit.
Hi there.
Hi. Hello, Kermit.
out there. Yeah, it's nice to be here.
Are you going to be on the special tomorrow night, Kermit?
No.
You're not on the special?
No, they gave me one lousy line. No, I'm not going to work that show.
What do you think? Maybe you're getting a little too old or something like that? You're the oldest of the group, aren't you?
Yeah. You know, I was one of the first guys.
Yeah.
Long time ago.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of thanks I get, you know.
What do you...
Now the young guys get it. You know, these young, long-haired rock kids
Yeah.
playing that lousy music.
What do you think of Dr. Tooth's music?
I hate it. Terrible stuff. Yeah.
Don't care for it at all.
No, frogs don't dig stuff like that.
No rock, huh? Just
No.
old-fashioned music.
Yeah, right.
What kind of a part do you play in the special? They give you one line.
I got one lousy line.
That's yeah, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah. It's nothing. It's a
How's-
nothing show, you know.
No.
Yeah.
How's your love life?
What? How's my love life?
How's your love life?
Listen, I work on Sesame Street. You don't ask a frog questions like that. You wouldn't ask Captain Kangaroo how's his sex life?
No, I wouldn't.
Can you imagine that?
You're absolutely right. That was wrong. That was wrong of me. I
Yeah.
shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
Well, how's your health? Is that the same question? Is your health all right?
That's okay.
You're feeling well then?
He's got a bad throat, you know.
What do you take for it?
I've got a person in my throat. That's a frog joke.
That's a frog joke. Yes.
Real big with all the frogs out there.
I'll bet it is.
Yes. Oh yeah. Sure.
What can I ask you a question? What's Kermit made of?
Well, it's a kind of a fleecing fabric. The first Kermit was made out of.
Watch that, will you?
The first Kermit I made the first Kermit out of a spring coat of my mother's, and a couple of ping pong balls.
I see.
For the eyes. We still use ping pong balls.
I don't.
Humiliating.
Yes, you see, Kermit seems very sensitive. Very sensitive frog.
He got his feelings hurt because he wasn't working the show.
Yeah. What do frogs do when they're not frogging? I mean, what do they have any hobbies or sports or anything like that?
No. No, frogs, we just sit around.
Yeah.
You sit in the swamps, you sit in the mud, you know. Sit there. That's what frogs do. Everybody knows that.
I'm sitting here talking to a dumb frog.
Thanks a lot.
I'm sorry. I'm awfully sorry about that.
You just alienated all the frogs out there.
Yeah.
It's okay, frogs. He didn't mean it.
Hey, I thank you for coming tonight. It's always a great pleasure to see you. The special is at 8 o'clock tomorrow.
Right.
And I'll catch it because you're really brilliant with this stuff.
You know, it's okay.
And Kermit, my apologies. I'm sorry about the Sesame Street. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Kermit.
That's awesome. Let's see. Oh, crap. I gotta look it up. Forget you all. Voice. Okay, that's. Damn it, I can't.
I'm Geraldo Rivera, and you're about to witness a live television event. A
Oh my god, okay. Wait a minute. Gotta...
massive concrete vault has been discovered. Some think it belonged to none other than the notorious Al Capone. Well, tonight, for the first time, that vault is going to be open live.
Live from the Windy City, Chicago, Illinois, a worldwide 2-hour television event from Al Capone's former headquarters in the Lexington Hotel. Tribune Entertainment and the Westgate Group are proud to present The Mystery of Al Capone's Vaults. Brought to you by Stroh's and Stroh Light. Now you're talking good times, and Stroh's is spoken here. And by the Hyatt Regency of Chicago. The Mystery of Al Capone's Vaults is hosted by Geraldo Rivera.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to the old Lexington Hotel, where 60 years ago, during the height of the Roaring '20s and Prohibition, this once lavish building belonged or was the headquarters for the notorious gangster Al Capone. Directly beneath me, in this hotel's rubble-strewn basement, a massive concrete chamber has been discovered, and there is evidence to suggest that that vault once belonged to Al Capone, the richest and most powerful gangster of his time. Now, what, if anything, that vault contains, we don't know. This is an adventure you and I are going to be taking together, because one way or the other, the mystery is going to be solved tonight. We're going to break open that vault, and we're going to step inside. We're also going to step back into history. History of Chicago in the Roaring '20s. It's a history written with the rapid fire of Tommy guns, held by gangsters like Dion O'Banya, Jaime Weiss, Frank Nitti, and of course the ruthless and cunning Scarface Al Capone. We'll show you how Capone used murder to carve out a multi-million-dollar criminal empire, an empire based on illegal booze, prostitution, and gambling. We'll explore the private rooms, the secret passages, the hidden stairways of his once luxurious hotel headquarters. We'll descend 40 feet beneath the streets of Chicago into a vast and little-known tunnel system, one that may have been used by Scarface Al Capone and his men. Here in Chicago, in Miami, in Los Angeles, and on San Francisco's Alcatraz Island, we'll talk to people who knew Al Capone personally.
Capone was an evil man. He seemed just like a big roly-poly teddy bear to me.
He was just like any other hoodlum. He was lovable. He was sweet.
Who do you think murdered your husband?
Al Capone did.
The Lexington Hotel here on Michigan Avenue in Chicago's rough South Side now resembles, as you can see, a bombed-out hulk. It's battered and crumbling after years of neglect. But this building, believe it or not, can claim a proud past. It has a notorious and colorful history. Its most infamous guest by far lived right up there in the 5th floor corner room. According to survivors of that era, he could be a genial, even charismatic guy, quick with a joke and generous with a buck, but dominant was his dark side, his attraction to physical violence, his quick, explosive temper, his ability to commit cold-blooded murder. He was, of course, Scarface Al Capone, America's public enemy #1. Now picture this hotel as it was when Al Capone lived here, truly an elegant and classy place. Hanging from the ornate ceilings were crystal chandeliers, while along these arched walls were fine art, lots of art. The floor was covered with ornate and beautiful tile mosaics. But Capone still transformed this place into a haven for crime and vice. For instance, in the lobby back there, armed men carrying Tommy guns were on patrol constantly. The fellow who ran the cigar stand out here was also the house bookmaker, always carrying a loaded .45 automatic in his waistband. Armed lookouts also monitored the elevators. Up in the floors of the hotel, there were brothels for Capone-controlled prostitutes and living quarters for his legion of armed men. In exploring this hotel, and believe me, we have climbed or crawled through the whole structure from the very top to the very bottom, we have found some fascinating things, like escape tunnels that the experts and eyewitnesses tell us were used by Capone and his men to split out of the hotel in the case of a raid by police or rival gangsters. There are also these hidden staircases. You can see them now only because we have torn the wall away, the walls that stood here until we began our process of excavation and exploration. There's another one over here. Check it out. Look, a hidden staircase that Capone could use. In the hotel, a raid happens, they come in the front door, he just came down this hidden staircase and then disappeared through a tunnel system that we'll show you later on. But over here is the main event. This is what you've come to see, and this is why we're here. This massive concrete chamber, which some believe was built for Al Capone. Look at this electric wiring, for example. we have spoken to the electrician who put, or rather the son of the electrician who installed this wiring. The man said that he was working for Al Capone at the time he did the job. And why would you need electricity in a sealed chamber? Now, what, if anything, this vault contains, we have no idea. But we're going to find out tonight, because we're going to take this wall down. It's about 5,000 pounds. The concrete is 22 inches thick. It's coming down tonight. Now, due to the thickness that seals the vault area, the thickness of the concrete, we have already pre-sawed through it, and we've prepared it to be pulled out. It was a difficult and time-consuming job that actually began several weeks ago. But now we are ready to tear this massive slab away, and we're going to do it with the help of a miniature bulldozer. Believe it or not, we've lowered one into the basement. They call these babies bobcats. Right, bobcats. We're going to take the bobcat, we're going to hook it up to the chains, and we're going to pull this wall down. All right, guys. John, okay, Jim, let's hook it up. Now, as these fellows are hooking the chains up to the bobcat, we're going to take our first short commercial break. But don't go away, because when we come back, that wall's coming down. Okay, guys, let's do it. Get it set. Get it set. Okay, the chains are hooked and the big slab's about to come down. But before we do that, let me give you just a little background about what we think we may have in here. Take a look. It begins with Tim Samuelson, an architectural expert with Chicago's Historical Landmark Society. Tim helped us explore the Lexington and confirm that the vault, as well as a soil sample taken from a section of it, could have come from the period during which Al Capone occupied the hotel. Still, there were many unanswered questions.
So, what do you think? Well, sometimes in these old buildings, you see similar things. You just got to dig through and interpret the different layers. It's just all kind of stacked up, and you just have to sort it out.
In January, we began sorting it out, carefully probing parts of...
It may not seem like much now, but back then, fucking, the hype was palpable. It was nuts. People were going crazy because of it. It was everywhere. Before, yeah, everybody fucking watched this. Just, yeah.
To the vaulted area, trying to determine how thick and formidable it would be. In February, experts used a heat-sensitive infrared monitor, trying to learn if the areas behind some of the sealed vault entrances were hollow or solid. Unfortunately, the readout suggested many of the areas were solid concrete. Still searching for hollow spaces, a seismic survey device, the kind often used in oil exploration, was used to bounce sound waves into the vault. But
GPR, ground penetrating radar.
Once again, the results indicated that much of the vault was solid. This disappointing evidence forced us to launch an exploration of selected parts of the vault. We had to know what we were up against. We encountered tons of dirt, and then occasionally an artifact dating from the time of Capone. The task of removing the dirt and backfill proved to be an enormous job. So a miniature bulldozer was partially dismantled, then lowered into the basement. As our exploration progressed, cutting equipment became necessary. What we had hoped would be a simple and revealing survey had grown into a monumental task. It was a task worth performing. After countless hours of digging, we realized we'd discovered a promising vault within a vault. It was a sealed, self-contained, 30-foot section, and our tests indicate it was probably hollow. So our excitement mounted. Come with me a second, let me show you what I was just describing. At first we thought the whole thing was 125-foot long space of just vault. This is the area, this cleared out space in here, that turned out to be solid. We thought it was hollow at first, but this is the section that turned out to be packed solid. We've moved literally tons and tons of fill out of here. This is where we found the artifacts and other things. We've also, here, Don, you can see up here, we've propped up the ceiling of this old hotel so it wouldn't fall down on us. We found some fascinating discoveries in here, like this space that I'll be showing you later on, and similar secret spaces. But remember, this was the part of the vaulted space that turned out to be packed solid. But over here, this is what I was describing as the chamber within a chamber, the vault within a vault, the section that our sonic and seismic test indicated was probably hollow. Now this brick, for instance, has no structural reason for existing. It is here, it seems, for one reason and one reason only, and that's to seal this space. This is our vault within a vault. This is where we're going to go in when we pull that slab down, just in a really scant seconds, a couple of minutes anyway. Now, Capone was the absolute lord and master of the Lexington Hotel between the years 1927 and 1932. That's when he went away to prison. When we dug out this solidly packed area of the vault, we found artifacts like this one that date back to that Capone era. That may be significant. We don't know. Also, that period between 27 and 32 represented Capone's golden era. That was at a time when his illicit booze operation, his gambling, and his prostitution were netting him approximately $100 million every year. Remember, he didn't pay taxes, so Capone had a lot of money to hide. The intelligence unit of the internal...
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that, Pam. Basically, torture rooms. They would fucking take people down there, torture them, kill them, chop them up. Yeah. I'm good, Pam. How are you doing? Yeah, I went on a flurry of live streams lately. But this one is whatever. I'm good. I'm just high right now, so I'm being silly. And watching old shit like this. I don't know what to call it. Iconic TV moment.
Internal Revenue Service that was investigating Capone at that time, thank you, Joe, was quoted as saying, Capone's sources of income are known to us. We believe he could cash in for $20 million. This is back in the 20s, remember. $20 million. But where has he hidden it? End quote. So it's a long shot, but maybe those missing millions are what we'll find in here. Or maybe we'll find the bones of his criminal rivals, or maybe documents, or weapons, or bootleg booze paraphernalia. Who knows? I don't. Not even the IRS knows. Remember, when Capone finally...
if you killed people in those rooms, you might be able to put aluminum on the ground and shit. That's what I would like to do, actually. I'd like to go there. I'd like to go to London, where Jack the Ripper killed all of his victims. Just go there. I don't know what for. I just want to be there for some reason. It's a bucket list thing of mine.
He went to prison. He didn't go to jail for any of the approximately 600 homicides he is allegedly responsible for. He went down, like so many of these hoods do, on an income tax evasion rep. And right now, here in Chicago, on the off chance that there is something great and there's something huge and something of value, the local tax man has shown up. Dennis Sansoni, special agent in charge of the IRS here. Dennis, I understand that your office has placed a lien against anything of value that we might find in it.
Right. We have a judgment for taxes that Capone owed in the late 20s and early 30s. Right now, with tax penalty and interest, it's around $800,000.
He owes $800,000, so you guys are here first in line in case we find anything.
Right.
You know, we've been taking guesses. All the guys down here have their own personal opinions. We've been working, as you know, for months excavating this thing about what we might find. Do you have any personal guess?
Well, I think it might be Prohibition paraphernalia, stuff that from the old booze days, possibly trucks, maybe some old cars.
Okay, but the first $800,000 worth goes to the government.
Right.
Uncle Sam.
Right.
Okay, thanks,
Thank
Dennis. Okay, over here it looks like the slab that seals this mysterious vaulted area is now ready to come down. Just one word of caution before we pull it down. Our tests indicate that this is a very, very deep chamber. So don't expect to see gold bars right out front. It's probably not going to work that way. This concrete slab is probably the first obstacle we're going to encounter. Okay.
Sorry about
John,
that.
you guys ready? Everybody's ready? You said, Jimmy? Okay. Okay, Rich. Okay, without further ado, let's take the wall down. Let's go. Take it down. Let's go. Let's go. Take it down. Okay. Watch yourself, John. Here. Here we go. Okay, it's about like we figured. There's still in the beginning areas. It's got other, it's 20s junk, definitely 20s junk. Let's see what's in there, though. The electrical wires go back inside. Okay, start digging it out. Come on, bring that bulldozer. Let's get this stuff out of here. I almost made a mistake. Here, hold the bottom. All right, now, this thing goes forever. The vault that we've indicated as being basically hollow stretches forever, so the only way we're going to get inside and empty this place out before our 2 hours...
Actually, I want to go to Alcatraz, too. I'm not sure if I'll be able to go there. You never know, I mean...
Are up. We're starting another team of workers here, so we brought out the heavy artillery. When we come back, the excavation work is going to continue. Stay tuned, because one way or another, the secret is now being uncovered. Okay, let's go, Winston. Let's do it. Go to work on it.
The mystery of Al Capone's vaults will continue after these messages.
I think it's a Prohibition gin. It's Capone's bathtub gin. Now, before we totally enter what may have been Capone's private spaces, I think that this is an appropriate time, I hope you can hear me, for us to find out more about this guy. Scarface Al Capone didn't just control the Lexington Hotel. At one point, he controlled the entire American underworld, and in a perverted, bizarre kind of way, I guess you could say his was a success story. The story of America's most notorious gangster began with the wave of Italian immigrants who flooded into New York City before the turn of the century. Among that overwhelmingly honest and hard-working group were Gabriel and Teresa Capone, two refugees from the slums of Naples. The family settled amid the poverty of Brooklyn with hopes for a better future. The fourth of their 9 children, born in 1899, was christened Alphonse Capone. He was the bad seed. By the time he was 18 years old, the young man's face was already scarred from a barroom knife fight. He was also suspected by New York police of at least 2 murders. By then, he was known to friend and foe alike as Al Capone. In the fall of 1919, young Al was summoned to Chicago. The call came from Johnny Torrio, a former New York gang leader who was Capone's close friend and teacher. A brilliant criminal mastermind with vaulting ambition, Johnny Torrio felt he needed a loyal and trusted assistant. With the heat on him in New York, Al Capone was only too happy to make the move to Chicago. At the time, Torrio was in business with his uncle, a fun-loving, high-living mobster called Big Jim Colosimo. Colosimo owned and operated a popular night spot.
Colosimo. Don't ask me why it's pronounced that way, it is Colosimo. That's weird.
Patronized by some of Chicago's best-known and most influential citizens. Colosimo also controlled most of Chicago's prostitution and vice, and a brand new, far more lucrative criminal opportunity loomed just over the horizon. Though 4 out of 5 Chicagoans opposed, booze was about to become illegal.
Alcohol is hindering the coming of world peace because it is befuddling the thinking of humanity.
It is no laughing matter today when the National Survey of Education on Alcoholism states that 1 out of every 6 boozers are women.
As the inaugural day of the National Prohibition Act drew ever closer, many Americans went into a drinking frenzy, loading up on the last of their legal drinks. Then the party was over. On January 17, 1920, liquor became illegal and the nation went dry. Ironically, it was Al Capone's 21st birthday. The first recorded violation of Prohibition took place in Chicago, only minutes after the new law went into effect. A shipment of medicinal alcohol was hijacked from a railroad yard. It was the first evidence the Great Experiment was going to become...
See, he's not wrong about his facts. It's just, fuck this Coolio for some other reason. He's not necessarily wrong, you know. No, at all, actually.
A grandiose disaster. Whose idea was this anyway? Well, here is Frances Willard, founder of one of the most powerful lobbying groups in the country at that time, the Women's Christian Temperance Union. Well, you may be surprised to know that the international organization is still alive and well, and living here in Evanston, Illinois. It's a suburb of Chicago where until just a year ago, liquor stores were still illegal. I came here recently to visit Martha Egger, the current president of the WCTU, to ask her about a historical irony. Quote, "The American people had expected to be greeted when the great day came by a covey of angels bearing gifts of peace, happiness, and prosperity. Instead, they were met by hordes of bootleggers, gangsters, triggermen, venal judges, corrupt police, crooked politicians, and speakeasy operators." Do you think there's any linkage between Prohibition, the 18th Amendment, those years between 1920 and 1933 when it was the law of the land, and growth of organized crime, the rackets?
I think organized crime has been here with us, for a long time. I don't think you can lay it at Prohibition's door. Some other thing would have been blamed for it if it hadn't been for Prohibition.
Despite the pure intentions of its sponsors to Johnny Torrio and his criminal protege Al Capone, Prohibition represented the irresistible money-making opportunity of a lifetime. Torrio pleaded with Colosimo to exploit it, but Big Jim showed little interest. His clubs, brothels, and gambling houses were already earning enough profits. And besides, he had a new young wife demanding all his extra attention. It proved a deadly distraction.
What more can a man want, eh? The best of everything.
A Hollywood movie starring Rod Steiger as Al Capone presented a fanciful version of Colosimo's murder.
You know it, eh?
In real life, Colosimo was killed by an anonymous bullet fired through the window of his club. The king of Chicago's vice would be buried in grand style. On May 11th, 1920, less than 4 months after the start of Prohibition, Big Jim Colosimo bit the dust. His murderer was never found, but the principal suspect was Al Capone. After a grand gangland funeral attended by all,
was doing. He didn't like it, so they hired Al and killed him. Now I can't prove it, but
Big Jim was laid to rest in this tomb, befitting his status as the former head of Chicago Vice. His death marks the beginning of a bold new criminal era, one in which Johnny Torrio and Al Capone would revolutionize the underground, introducing business procedures and making it all frighteningly efficient. In many ways, the death of Big Jim Colosimo marked the birth of modern organized crime. We are now on the second floor of what once was the elegant ballroom of the Lexington Hotel. The guys are still digging furiously down below in the basement, but we thought that you would like to hear how this long-dead gangster, Al Capone, is still affecting our nation's life in a very, very negative way. With me now is Patrick Healy. Patrick is the executive director of the Chicago Crime Commission, and welcome. Thank you for joining us tonight. Have you ever seen a bottle of bathtub gin before?
Oh, that's before my time.
A little before mine, too. I'm going to keep these as souvenirs. Hope we find a lot more down there. I said that in the video piece we just saw that Capone was the real godfather of organized crime. Can that be said with accuracy in your experience?
I think so. I think he saw the potential of a unified organization, and therefore he made those come under his control, and those who did not, he killed or ran out of town.
So he made a monopoly, in essence.
Absolutely. He was what we would call modern business techniques to organized crime activities.
Tell me about that. Tell me how he organized crime.
Well, it's one of those things that you either do it my way or else, and that's why you had so much violence and street battles in Chicago at the time. And at one time before he came here, or slightly after he came here, we had pockets of gangs, and they each had sections of town. Well, they were working at odds with each other. And if you're really going to take over a town, you must control the town. He saw that and did it to a high degree of proficiency.
You mentioned a high degree. We estimated from our historical research, etc., that he was bringing in $100 million a year, which seems a fabulous amount. How does that compare with modern organized crime?
Today's standards, it's nickels and dimes. Today's standards, organized crime is estimated to bring in $100 billion a year.
$100 billion.
The President's Commission on Organized Crime forecasted $100 billion and 414,000 jobs a year.
Oh my goodness, that looks like what, 1,000 times more than Capone. Okay, Patrick, thank you for coming with us. I'd like you to hang in case we find some artifacts that are in your area of expertise.
My pleasure.
Thanks for the answers so far. We're still in the process of removing dirt from the vault down below. We have to pause now for another commercial break, but when we come back, you'll get acquainted with an indispensable tool of the 1920s, the Tommy gun, after these commercial messages.
I think it was called the Chicago Typewriter. Yes. That's exactly what it was called. I was thinking the thing with the AK-47. That's called a straight sweeper. Yeah. Tommy guns, the Chicago Typewriter, and the AK is the straight sweeper. I always get those two mixed up for some reason.
This big second-floor room in the Lexington Hotel was basically the gangsters' gymnasium, but it also had a more sinister purpose. This was the target practice range for Capone and the boys. And during that time, what better weapon to hit what you were aiming at than this one, the Thompson submachine gun. Most civilians call it the Tommy gun. The mob called it the typewriter. And as you know, with it, they wrote a bloody tale of terror. If the Colt was the weapon that won the West, they say this was the weapon that made the 20s roar. With me now are two experts on the Thompson submachine gun specifically and weapons. Come on in, guys. Here's Sherman Tarnoff and Bill Dambra. Why was the weapon so popular with the mob?
Well, it was so popular because it was probably the first weapon designed for automatic fire. It was designed by Colonel Thompson during the First World War. The main reason was the fact that it was a type of a trench war and that it was impossible to fire at many troops at one time. So the gun was actually developed, and its original name was called the trench broom.
The trench broom, how appropriate. Why did the mob like it?
Because it had a tremendously high rate of fire. It had a devastating effect when hitting people. But
what about accuracy?
It was tremendously accurate, a very accurate weapon at close ranges.
I've shot most modern weapons. I haven't used this.
You could light your initials with one of those fucking things. It's so precise.
This one yet. Is it
I don't think I could get one, but I would love to shoot one, dude.
difficult to fire?
No, it's a very easy weapon to fire. It has very little rise. It is extremely accurate, and it's very comfortable to shoot.
Okay, why don't we demonstrate that? You can walk me through it. We'll show the rate of fire and the accuracy of the Thompson submachine gun.
Okay.
We've set up some targets. Why don't you load her up and show me how to use it?
Okay.
What's her caliber?
It's a .45 caliber automatic pistol round.
Is this exactly the same gun used in the St. Valentine's Day Massacre?
Exactly.
Weapon loaded?
Weapon's loaded, and it's on safe.
She's on safe. Okay, look at that mark. Any special instructions?
Just lean into it.
Okay. Safety's coming off.
Safety's off.
Weapon's hot.
Downrange, ready.
They also use this thing with the stock off, didn't they?
Yes, they did. It comes off real simply, just like
Why?
that.
What's the reason for that?
The reason they took the stock off was so that they could go out the window of a car, and it would be convenient. That way it wouldn't get in their way.
I see. Now, one point I want to make very clearly right now. This is live ammunition. It's not like the cop shows you see on TV, not like the police dramas where they use squibs or blanks. This is the real stuff. 45 caliber, hot ammunition. Okay, now you just fire it like a pistol then. Safety's on, she's hot, downrange. Okay.
Ready to go.
Ready to go. Okay, let's see what happens to Aristotle. So I just watch my burst and aim by the burst.
Watch your burst where it's going.
The mystery of Al Capone's vaults will continue after these messages.
Just a few miles west of downtown Chicago and the Lexington Hotel lies Cicero. In 1923, the year the Chicago Crime Commission named Al Capone public enemy number 1, Cicero was a quiet middle-class suburb, but that didn't last for long. 1923 was also the year Chicago got a new mayor. Big Bill Thompson was finally replaced by a law and order reformer, a man named William Deaver. Deaver appointed as chief of police an incorruptible lawman, Morgan Collins by name. When Capone offered him $100,000 a month.
Yeah, this is way too long. I've got to end this anyway. I'm starting to get bored. Even though this is interesting and I downloaded it, let's see. I'm sure I downloaded it. Yeah. And leave. Yeah, I downloaded it.
He told us his father to come right fast from behind. As it turns okay, go to work, guys. All right, now.
Yeah, I have it. So, bye.